Sound test. Okay. So, welcome everyone for stream number 9 of Tatoeba. So today, I didn't really have like clear topics in mind, but I'd like to share plans and ideas for the future live streams. And well, there are certainly some topics I'd like to address that are kind of recurring topics within Tatoeba. So I mean, usually these kind of topics is the kind of things that I would write a blog post about or that we would discuss on the wall, but I felt that maybe it's nice also to bring these topics into the stream and to have a conversation. Well, here it depends who are watching the stream at the moment, but it could be like having these streams could be also a channel to have a conversations about some like what I was called hot topics of Tatoeba. So yeah, first thing, the plans for future streams. So initially, I started experimenting with these live streams with the idea that some guests, like one or several guests, would join the stream and we could collaboratively work on something together, on like do something on Tatoeba. So for instance, if we look, so these are some of the past streams that we did. So there was a stream about how to install Tatoeba. There was a stream on how to contribute to the Tatoeba API. So this wasn't much contribution, but just me talking. So, but there was a stream on how a new language gets added to Tatoeba, how to do a pull request, how Tatoeba is deployed on production, so all these kind of things. So yeah, that was the initial idea. And I would definitely like to continue with this concept, but the truth is, in fact, I think I'm running out of volunteers at this stage, like to have people coming, joining, and doing things together. And also it's, well, with these few experiments that we had in the past, it can be a little bit difficult because there's some technical barrier in the sense that it requires people to have, well, a computer, first of all. Like, not everybody has a PC. Some people just have like a tablet or mobile phone. But also they need to have some equipment that is somewhat reliable. And yeah, that's not necessarily the case for all the people who participated to the stream. And it makes it a little bit more difficult. And so yeah, can't really be something that's done on a regular basis, let's say. But I'm still happy if people want to be part of the stream, even with non-optimal equipment. Like, we can still try. Yeah, if things go wrong and like we're lagging, we're crashing, yeah, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. At least we're trying. But I guess I would expect that from here on, the next streams will be more what I will call solo streams, so that just me streaming, and that would be just me streaming how I personally contribute to Tatoeba, which I think should also give you an insight of what's going on in Tatoeba in general. Yeah. And if possible, I'd like to try to make the streams a little bit more frequent, but yeah, we'll have to see about that. So that's the first thing for the plans for the future streams. And then the other thing is that when I was talking with all the people who were interested to participate to this stream, there was an idea that was mentioned of like having interviews of members of Tatoeba to just have a more concrete idea of how people use Tatoeba, what are they doing with Tatoeba, why are they doing what they are doing with Tatoeba. So basically just to have somebody come and have a conversation around Tatoeba. And I think, I mean, I would be interested as well to have a little bit more insight about, like, to have a clearer idea of how the people, the members of Tatoeba use Tatoeba, whether it's like somebody who really has contributed a lot or just somebody who just recently joined. I think it can be interesting to have their like opinions, their point of view about Tatoeba. And so yeah, it still involves somebody, but I think this format maybe is a little bit less demanding in terms of equipment. I think because it's just talking, it doesn't require people to open to run Tatoeba locally and open a bunch of software. So yeah, this maybe is a little bit easier to set up. So if you are interested to be interviewed, or if you have like somebody in mind that you would really like to hear an interview from, then just contact me. So send me an email, send me a private message. Yeah, just contact me and I'll see what I can do. Of course, I'm not going to force anybody to come on stream, but maybe I can arrange something if people are comfortable enough. So yeah, that's just throwing an idea out there. I'm not sure if there's gonna be anybody, but I think it can be interesting. Right, and so yeah, so today, well, I planned mostly only one topic to talk about, but maybe there's other things, because there's really a bunch of topics that I've had in mind that I wanted to talk about already, even when I was doing some of these other solo streams where I was talking about general stuff about Tatoeba, but I didn't really get the chance to talk about. And so yeah, I think the streams can also be a channel to talk about these hot topics. So one of the topic that I would start with is language flags. So yeah, as you know, Tatoeba uses flags of countries to represent a language. So they are used as language icons. And yeah, so first of all, not every language has the symbol of a country flag. Like for instance, Esperanto. This is not a country. But for the majority of languages in Tatoeba, the icon that we use is based on a flag. And obviously, with the recent crisis happening here in Europe, resulting from the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, I guess it was just a matter of time until somebody requests that we change, we change the flag for the Russian language, which of course sparked different opinions. Like people are not all on the same page about this, and mostly it puts into question whether or not the whole idea of using flags of countries to represent languages is a good or a bad idea. But so just for anyone who hasn't been around for a long time, you may not know, but this is an issue that is pretty old. So this is a very old topic. I can't say exactly how old, but I'm pretty sure if you dig into the wall messages of Tatoeba, you'll probably find discussions against flags that could date from maybe almost 10 years ago, maybe more than 10 years ago, I don't know actually. But so yeah, everybody who's been around for long enough, we are already aware that there is not an overall agreement with this idea of using flags to, like country flags to represent languages, mostly because countries are not, I mean, languages are not countries, and because flags carry a lot of, can carry a lot of political weight. So yeah, it has happened that people are concerned that using a flag can be offensive to the people speaking the language, or it can be controversial, it can be disrespectful, it can cause a lot of discussions, heated discussions. So the concerns are valid. Like if we want to avoid as much as possible to get involved, to have any sort of politics into this project, it's a valid concern that we should avoid using flags of countries. But today I'd like to dive a little bit more into this topic and kind of explain why, despite all the difficulties that can happen with using flags, we are still continuing to use language flags. I mean, flags of countries as language icons. And the short answer is basically because there is no satisfying alternative, at least from my point of view. So obviously all I'm saying here is mostly from my point of view, but I'll try to explain best as I can. So if you think about what else we could do if we weren't using flags, what could we do? So one of the first thing could be a very radical solution is like not to use flags at all, like not to have any sort of graphical representation for languages, and just use the name of the language. So just plain text. But as you can see, I mean, as you can feel, this would be a pretty drastic change in like the graphical DNA of Tatoeba. So, you know, removing images. And you could argue, of course, that these graphical icons are not really necessary and maybe are a bit superficial for what Tatoeba aims to do. And of course, it's not needed. Like we don't need to have those images. Like it doesn't stop the website from running. But it will for sure make the whole website less colorful, the whole user interface less colorful, and yeah, just more sad. So it would be, in my opinion, at least a downgrade in terms of aesthetics, and it does. I mean, it does have an impact on how people feel when using the website. Now, to be clear, I don't think that's totally, like, it's not a crazy idea to stop using language icons. I can totally see the rationale behind it, and I can totally see how it saves us. It can save us a lot of efforts because, I mean, yeah, it's really an ongoing thing where once in a while we have people like fighting to not like to change the flag or to not have a certain flag, and so it's a lot of effort put into trying to find like a compromise about what is the picture that we should use for language. So I mean, I can totally understand that, you know, if we just don't want to deal with these discussions, then yeah, the easy thing is don't have pictures at all. It's less complicated, but yeah, the consequence is that it makes the user interface like less appealing, and you know, it's harder to really have a distinction between the languages. And then you also have the other problem that, well, Tatoeba has been around for a little while now, and you know, they are a core element of the UI. So it's not going to be that easy to just remove this core UI element. It's just like in comparison if we would decide that users don't have a profile picture anymore, that every users are only represented by their username, just plain text. And I can imagine that some people wouldn't care at all because they never cared to have an avatar. But I feel like for a lot of people, it's like there's something about having a picture to represent you, to represent a group of people. There's something about having a picture that's important, that's kind of powerful. And so if we just remove that, I mean, especially if we have it and then we just remove it, yeah, it's not going to be very well accepted. I mean, I don't expect that everybody is going to be happy about that. So not using flags at all could have maybe been a solution when like Tatoeba was in its infancy, and it didn't really have a strong identity, let's say. But at this stage, in a project that's like 15-year-old, and we've had these flags all along, it's going to be a little bit difficult to just remove them. And so if we don't remove language flags, then you have, I mean, the most common solution that is suggested is to, instead of using flags of countries, to use the ISO code. So that is like the 3-letter code. So yeah, instead of having this picture of a country flag, we just have the 3-letter code. We could consider, of course, having a specific color and a specific background based on so that it's easier to differentiate between a language and another. But one of the main arguments against this idea, I mean, that I've heard, is that well, this would be based on Latin characters, and not all languages use the Latin script, so it would not be representative of all the languages. So yeah, that's, and yeah, if we wanted to use like to have a graphical symbol that is as close as possible, like as good as possible as a representation of the language, then it's not the best idea to put an ISO code, because we have other, like, people use other characters than just the alphabet. And if you ask me personally, I think as well that this solution is a little bit, I'm not sure what would be the correct word for it, but it feels like a little bit robotic, in the sense that it takes away like the human dimensions of languages. It's like this code is more like a technical code. It's not like something that is really representative of human groups. But again, I don't think like this is a completely bad solution. I mean, the rationale is very understandable, but it's not the best solution either, and at least not one that I would be very happy with. And I think it's a bit unfair that if we can come up with a picture, an icon that doesn't bother anybody, that looks pretty, that the native speakers of the language can identify with, why should we force every language to have like a monotone, robotic 3-letter code just because we don't manage to find something politically neutral for some other language? Like, it feels a little bit unfair, right? And in fact, the reality is that we do use this design pattern. So, like, there are some languages where, well, by default, if somebody requests a language, but they have no idea what picture could be used, to represent the language, because they feel that there is no country flag that can fit, and there is like no flag at all, no flag of anything that can fit. We can fall back. I mean, this is our default fallback, to use, let me find an example, to use like this 3-letter code written, for instance here, for the language Kashmiri. So this was very likely a case where we didn't really know what to use. The requester of the language didn't really know what to use, so by default we're just gonna have the 3-letter code with a white background. So this is our default design, let's say, when we have nothing better for it. But we do have some languages that also use this 3-letter code, but with a different color, with a different background. I think I found a few, like for instance over here, the language Mono is like the icon for it is MNR, which is the language code written in white in a blue background. There's also Dutton word speed words, so I'm not sure what this language is, but yeah, it's like written in yellow letters in a black background. So we have some cases. We have also actually Afrihili, which is not the language code alone. It has some extra symbols like parentheses around it. So yeah, there are like in the language icons that we crafted, there are cases where we've used this design pattern of just having the ISO code. But this is not, at least I wouldn't consider it, for most of the cases, I wouldn't consider it as a final solution. Like, I think if we can come up with like the shapes and colors that are, more representative of the language, then we should strive to do it. So not using flags or not using language icons at all, just text, not really, possible solution, but not really viable, I would say. Using ISO code, so it's kind of a middle ground where we kind of have some picture for it, but it's not really a picture, because at least I don't feel that having a code is really like a graphical, like it's still a mix, and it's still a bit of robotic, and yeah, so what would be left if we don't use those two first solutions could be that we just generate a completely random image as an icon. So we come up with some algorithm that just based on a random number, it's going to generate a pattern of shapes and color that will be that we would use as the language icon. So I'm not sure if anybody tried to suggest like randomness as a possible solution for avoiding politics in the projects, but yeah, but I think it wouldn't be a very popular idea. I don't think it's been mentioned a lot. Still worth mentioning. But now, obviously, randomness, if we think about it, randomness has its problems too, because, well, first of all, it can be very confusing if, like, you just generally randomly produce an icon to represent the language. Like, people will be like, okay, but why is my language associated to this specific icon? This and even more confusing if by some random chance the generator would produce, I don't know, let's say for Esperanto, it produces an icon that kind of looks like the flag of Japan for some reason. Like if randomness, if that's the output of the randomness, then that would be even more confusing. Like if we start to associate a certain shape and pattern of like something that people already associate to, like let's say Japan, and suddenly the random generator comes up with this pattern, and when we try to generate an icon for Esperanto, that would be like very confusing, right? So yeah, it's perhaps we can use like the idea of generating random flags, icons, in some cases, but probably not the best thing to do for like to apply it to every language. So yeah, that's basically like the three alternatives I could think of if we were to stop using like flags as language icons, country flags as language icons. And so that's how, I hope you can see why these alternatives are not are not necessarily satisfying. But I want to stress, like really stress that our language icons, so yeah, these pictures here, these images here, they do not need to be the flags of countries. So I'll guide you a little bit through like a process of language request. So one of the steps when somebody requests for a new language is that we ask them what can be a good image that we can use to create the language icon. So I'll just read this out loud. Just like members of Tatoeba have profile pictures, languages in Tatoeba also have their profile picture or language icon. So we will create an icon for your language based on the image you will send us. First of all, do not feel pressure to find an image. If you are unable to find something good, we can always use our default language icon template. The icon will have the 3-letter ISO code written in black on a white background. If you wish to find a more colorful icon to represent your language, please check our policies regarding language icons. And in these policies, so one of the things that we emphasize is that the image does not need to be a country flags. But the reality is that most of our country flags are based, most of our icons, language icons, are based on country flags because languages are most easily associated to country flags. But of course, if we can find something else, then it's completely fine. It's maybe even better. Right, so somebody, just to share the comments, somebody is writing in the chat that getting rid of country flags itself would be political. So yeah, that's true. Whatever we decide is going to be political anyway. I mean, I personally don't think we can get rid of politics in Tatoeba. We can't get rid of politics anywhere. There's always going to be something political about every decision. But yeah, regarding that, most icons are based on country flag. If you take a moment to think about it, like the names of the language themselves, they are based on the names of countries or nations, or some. So like if we take English, like England, Russian, Russia, Italian, Italy. So Turkish, Turkey. So in a way, it just follows a natural linguistic path, if I can say, that when we create a graphical symbol for languages, we kind of follow the same path, where the name of the language stems from the name of a country, and so the graphical symbol for the language kind of follow the same path, where it stems from the language, the flag of the country. So there is, it's just hard to get rid of this. It's just a natural linguistic path, I would say, how I would call it. So yeah, so back to this this request of about the Russian language icon and whether we should change it or not. So first of all, yeah, those icons here are not set in stone. So yes, we can change them. It's a possibility. We have changed some of the icons in the past, like basically when we realized that we chose something that was not really the best representation for language, or we chose a flag that really can raise a lot of controversy. So we've made changes in the past. Now for Russian in particular, my personal opinion is that it's a little bit too early to tell. So maybe somebody can like prove me wrong, but I don't think there has been complaints specifically about Russian in the past, like from I don't think we've received any complaints or concerns from Russian native speakers who contribute to Tatoeba or who use Tatoeba. Like nobody came to tell us that, hey, maybe you should consider using another symbol for the language because this particular flag is like a little bit sketchy, a little bit dodgy to use. So now this is not, of course, to dismiss all the suffering that has happened due to the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, but honestly, I think if we decide to change today the icon, that would feel more like a PR stunt or just like a very emotional response. And I think a wiser thing to do is just to wait and see what happens. I mean, what we would need to see happen is, you know, for the Russian native speakers to like disassociate with the Russian flag. Like we would have to really sense that there is a shift in how the native speakers of Russian perceive this symbol. You know, that there would have to be like, we would have to sense a strong rejection, and not over the course of just a few weeks or even a few months, but really over the course of like a few years. That yeah, we will have to sense that the whole collective entity of Russian native speakers do not identify anymore with this flag for us to consider replacing it by something else. But nonetheless, if you like, if in general, again, if anybody has a better idea than using the flag of a country or a nation, of an ethnic group, like if anybody has a better idea for, like, it's a, you know, it's going to be case by case. We can't apply it like we can't make it a general rule for every language. It's just if there is one language for which you feel, okay, this is not the best, there's something that could be better, and that like that would be more inclusive, that more people who are speaking the language would like identify with, then of course you are free to suggest it, and you can, so for that you can either, oh, like we have actually in our wiki we have some guidelines about it. So if you look at how to request a new language, there are some related articles where you can also check how to request for a modification. So you can ask, actually, like the language names itself can sometimes be a political issue. So the way we name languages, you can request to have it named differently. And for the icon, yeah, So you can contact us either by writing on the wall, or you can also contact by private message the language team, or by email as well. Emails works. So yeah, there are ways. So if you think for any language, if there's anything that you feel is we're using an inappropriate symbol, you can definitely let us know. But yeah, so that was the first topic that I wanted to talk about in this stream. So I hope it gives more insights. I guess on first impression, or like when you're not very immersed in Tatoeba, that might sound like a strange thing, because a lot of websites do use country flags, as a lot of language websites rely on this graphical language country symbol as as an icon for the languages. But yeah, it's really a ground for a lot of debates. But this is where Tatoeba stands. I think we cannot really make a general rule of just replacing everything by, like, just removing everything, or just replacing everything by the ISO codes. Or yeah, I think we have to take it just case by case, look case by case for each language. Okay, is this icon, is there any complaints? Is there anybody within the community of native seekers who feel uncomfortable to be associated, like that the language they speak is associated to just this symbol or not? And then from there we can try to see if we can find a better symbol, if we can draft something better, like a better design for the language icon. All right, so now there is one second topic I wanted to talk about, which is also a heavy topic. And that is, so I don't have anything particular to show here, but that is the topic of inappropriate sentences. So maybe I can show just the code of conduct. So yeah, so this, I guess, falls into the category of people who are trying to make trouble, or maybe, in fact, I don't think the intent initially is always to make trouble. I think when people add these kind of sentences, they just, some people just like to use Tatoeba corpus as a channel to express certain things, certain part of themselves. But I think that's for everybody. Every sentence you will write in Tatoeba is, in a way or another, like a piece of yourself. So some people are just more vocal about it, and some people less. But yeah, we have, of course, since the longest time, that sometimes people will add sentences that can be interpreted as hate speech, or personal attacks, or political propaganda. Some people might add sentences that are very vulgar, obscene, pornographic. So in general, once in a while, we'll have people who will add sentences that just make other people feel a little bit too uncomfortable. And I don't think we will ever have like a perfect answer for this. But the question is, to what extent should we censor these sentences, and should we censor them at all? So this is not a topic I have really sat down and thought long enough about, that I can present you with all the pros and cons and all the opinions all over the place. But I just wanted to mention it because, yeah, it is a recurring problem that people will once in a while come and put sentences that make other people feel comfortable, and then people who feel uncomfortable will ask the admins yeah, to delete the sentence or to hide the sentence, mark it in some ways that it's, it doesn't get distributed through the downloads files, that it doesn't show up in searches or in like the random sentences that shows up in the home page. Yeah, and so the question is, on which basis should we make the decision that a sentence is like should be censored and a sentence should not be censored? And of course, there will be people who will say, well, we shouldn't censor at all, because, yeah, freedom of speech, because Tatoeba is not a place. I mean, even if, yeah, of course, the sentence itself can carry a lot of violence or, negativity, but in itself, it's still, it's still a piece of linguistic data, and we, for if we remain 100% scientific, we shouldn't see it as like, we shouldn't take personally the things that are written in there, but just see it as a reflection of, yeah, just humans. But so, not censoring at all, like, I'm not 100% convinced that this always helps, because within Tatoeba, I feel we still need some sort of mechanism to tell people, okay, what you are doing here is going a little bit too far. And, so if you ask me, as much as possible, I think if we could let people just add anything they want, however they want, and not have to deal with, deleting it or hiding it, censoring it, whatever you want to call it, I think that would be the best. But the reality is that to make this possible, it requires to implement a certain amount of features in Tatoeba. So it requires to spend effort into basically reprogramming how Tatoeba works, like thinking, designing new features, so that when there is, these kind of sentences, that people can filter things in a better way, that that, if somebody decides all of the sudden to add 1 billion sentences that are just very provocative, and that, making it that if somebody looks at the random sentences on Tatoeba, the only thing they would see the majority of the time is very, insults, for provocative sentences, pornographic sentences, like the kind of sentences that many people don't feel comfortable with. So if this kind of thing happen, we need a mechanism to rebalance the whole perception that people could have of Tatoeba if they join Tatoeba and explore the corpus, right? So we don't want to become a place where it seems like this kind of, it's hard to explain, but we don't want to be a place where this kind of things feel like this is that we show that we accept the content, like the meaning of the sentences, that we approve of them. Like, hopefully, I hope that most people who use Tatoeba and who join and who by lack of chance stumble upon a sentence that's just very uncomfortable to them, I hope that they don't assume right away that, Tatoeba is a place where it's a bunch of perverts, it's a bunch of racists, it's a bunch of people who are just hating the whole world. I mean, I hope that just viewing one or a few sentences like this on a very punctual, like it's a very temporary thing, I hope people don't just make a general judgment of Tatoeba, that this is such a place. But yeah, it's still, as long as we can contain it, that it's not a general thing, that is not like a trend, then I think we don't have to worry too much about censoring. But yeah, it's a topic I wanted to bring up because I think it's happening like fairly often, and I don't know if we really have a good way to deal with it. I mean, I don't think that completely ignoring it is a good thing, but I think there needs to be an understanding in both sides. That on one hand, the people who add the sentences, these kind of sentences, and see like a pushback, they have to take a little bit of time to think, okay, maybe I went a little bit too far. Maybe, I didn't really need to add this sentence. Maybe I could illustrate this vocabulary like with something that is a little bit less provocative. So to try to think how to change that. But on the other hand, there needs to be understanding from people who feel uncomfortable to these sentences that, in the end, we cannot always censor things that feel uncomfortable, that feel inappropriate. I mean, we cannot just exclude sentences that mention, sex, because sex is taboo. It's not. It wouldn't be like scientifically correct from us to do that. So yeah. Just wanted to bring up this topic in case anybody has opinions, or just to get you to think if you have ideas on what is the best way to handle it. But in my opinion, I think we have, again, it's one of those situations where we have to look case by case, and the best process I can think of is, okay, we look at the user who is adding such sentences. Is this somebody who is like, in general, is this just is the purpose just trying to make everybody angry? Is it just really to provocate? Or is this somebody who is really legitimately trying to fill up the Tatoeba corpus with sentences where there is a lack of vocabulary representing it? Because sometimes, I mean, the world is not always pretty, and we can't just write sentences that are like roses and rainbows. Sometimes there will have to be sentences that are very harsh to read, and maybe somebody has noticed, okay, the corpus is kind of lacking in this area, and they are just trying to illustrate this part of languages. So I think it's a case by case, and we have to just see what is the situation, who is the user, and then based on that, well, it's not about censoring the sentences themselves, but it's about it could end up, it's first about telling the user to just stop trying to add this kind of sentences, and if they can't, then obviously then we have to resort to things like blocking or banning the user. And then once the user is banned from Tatoeba, so suspended, whichever word you want to use, once the user once we have decided, okay, this user, this contributor is not helpful at all to the project, is bringing too much trouble, and we just can't handle it, then the sentences that they have contributed, we could decide to just remove them all, or we could decide to we have this feature to mark them, like they are marked in red, and when they are marked in red, basically they don't show up by default in the search. They are not exported in the files that we export weekly. they don't show up as a random sentence in the homepage. So we could also decide to mark all the sentences as read, and anyone who is an advanced contributor or a corpus maintainer of Tatoeba can technically adopt one of the sentences that they feel are not appropriate, and they could either change it or they can also delete it if they feel that this doesn't have its place. So it's more like a community, like the responsibility of like the whole community to decide like what to do with the sentences. So yeah, that's kind of how the state of things are at the moment with Tatoeba and with inappropriate sentences. And yeah, the reality is that if we wanted to change any of that, I think we could probably offer some better features, but it does require that we find the time, like we have the resource, we have people who are willing to look into the code and like who are willing to sit down and think, okay, what kind of features can I design to make Tatoeba like a platform that can handle in a better way without like over censorship, like how to handle this kind of content that are what I would call inappropriate, but that can still be linguistically valuable. So yeah, not an easy topic, but that's food for thought. All right, so that's were for me. I think the two main big topics I wanted to talk about today. So yeah, the topic of language flags, I've had quite some time to sit and think about it. Like inappropriate sentences, a little bit less. Like at least I didn't have the moment to sit and like put into words like all the thoughts I have about it. But yeah. So somebody in chat saying going over 10 million sentences in post marking them as not set for work would be the real problem. Yeah, I don't think we can, like, no, I don't think the point would be that somebody goes one by one through 10 million sentences. Yeah. To be honest, I don't think the issue of inappropriate sentences is like overblown yet. Like we don't have that huge amount. And I think it's noticeable only if you spend a decent amount of time on Tatoeba. You will, like, if you're every hour checking the latest contributions of Tatoeba, then obviously you will for sure once in a while notice that people are adding sentences that aren't so pretty. If you use a lot the search, if you explore a lot of the corpus, you will for sure find such sentences. But I think for a regular contributor, that's maybe a bit less of an issue. So yeah, the most important for me is that we try to keep the ratio like minimal to a point where it doesn't feel too much, to the point. I mean, everything is in the dosage, right? Something can become poisonous when you take too much of it. Like water is probably not going to kill you, it's not going to poison you, but if you're drinking like 20 liters of water in like 2 hours, that's probably not going to go very well. So the same goes for the amount of inappropriate sentences. Like at the small dosage, we can probably handle it, but there's going to be a threshold where too much is too much, and we have to decide what to do. And that could be like mass deleting certain things, but we're not there yet. We're far from being there. I hope we don't get there. Okay. So looking at the time, yeah, I think those are the two main topics I can address today. But so to summarize again, for the next streams, this will be, yeah, again, mostly me alone. So either talking about these kind of topics that I talked today, like language flags or inappropriate sentences, or just me, like I will just pick something I want to work on Tatoeba, and I'll just stream it so that people can see what's going on. Because yeah, and if you want to join me at any point, help me out to do certain things, or if you want to take, if you feel that you want to learn how Tatoeba works and help, like get involved more than just, you know, contributing sentences or voicing opinions, then please don't hesitate to contact me. I'm really always happy to have more people joining. We always need more people joining. Um, and yeah, so that's it for today. And I hope these streams, I can stream on a more frequent, on a more regular basis. Hopefully, maybe next weekend, maybe even before next weekend. We'll see. But yeah, in the meantime, thanks for watching and take care, everyone. Bye bye.